Honestly, this Tinubu government is a joke. Like, these people are taking Nigerians for granted. They don't even regard Nigerians. Very, very insensitive people. So finally, Bayo Ananuga has come out to defend the 10 billion naira budget for solar installation in ASOROCK. According to him, the White House in Washington, D.C. uses solar power. That's why is Nigerians even complaining? In the White House, they do it. So why is it different in Nigeria? And he forgot that in US, these people have 24 hours electricity. Like, even if they want to copy something, can they copy something that's going to benefit Nigerians? Why is it always only for them? So now they are telling us that we can go to hell. We can even continue staying in darkness as far as in ASOROCK there is light. This is really, really heartbreaking. And also concerning this trending news about the Niger Delta governor, saying that if you see anyone with dreadlock, even with wig, that police need to arrest the person. For me, I think this is inciting, right? But let me allow you guys to just listen and hear what they said concerning all this trending matter on Arise News. Just take a look.
Now, following reports that the State House has allocated 10 billion naira in the approved 2025 budget for the installation of a solar mini grid at the presidential villa, the special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on information and strategy, Bayo Ananuga, has come to defend the project. In a video posted on X, Ananuga referenced the White House in Washington, D.C., highlighting that the U.S. presidential residence also operates partially on solar power. Let's take a look before we get into the reactions.
Solar panels in the White House, I think, are a really important message that solar is here. We are doing it. We can do a lot more. I am very bullish on the future of solar energy as a key part of our clean energy future.
The size of the array that we established here is the typical size for the average American house. Being at the White House, we do have some security concerns. We can't cover the entire roof with panels, though that would be good from an energy saving standpoint.
Every 4 minutes, some small business or homeowner is going solar. In a sense, we're going through a transition here, and the industry is going through a transition that we're just seeing the beginning of.
The president is basically doing what Americans all across the nation are doing right now. They're making the conscious choice to look for renewable energy like solar as the cheaper, cleaner, and preferred energy source for their homes and families.
You know, we need a diversified clean energy portfolio as articulated in the president's climate action plan, which we are actively engaged in now. And we also need to spur the economic sectors of the future. Last year alone, we created over 23,000 new jobs in solar energy.
Well, let's head on to Twitter. Kolawale's tweet, we're going to start with that. He says, solar power or panel is installed in the White House, not for lack of electricity, but because they're trying to reduce global warming. Why in Nigeria they want to install solar panels in ASOROCK? Because of the grid collapse and lack of electricity. The two are not the same. Some went on to tweet to say, Mr. Bayo, number one, Americans used American-made solar panels. Where's ours? Second, solar was 20% of the White House's electricity. How much is ours? Third, the project cost $1 million. How much is ours? They give Americans 24/7 power supply. How much do Nigerians get? These are the issues. And finally, Idris tweeting, solar mini-grid at the presidential villa is a commendable step towards sustainable governance and energy efficiency. This move reflects a strong commitment to the energy transition agenda, reduces reliance on fossil fuels, and sets an example for other institutions. Meanwhile, let's take a look at another story where 8 federal universities are now set to disconnect from the national grid and fully transition to solar power. The move under the Energizing Education program, backed by the World Bank and AFDB, aims to reduce outages, cut costs, and boost academic performances. Of course, school listed include the University of Abuja, Calabar, Maiduguri, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, the Federal University, Gashua, Nigeria Defense Academy, Kaduna, and Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University in Bauchi. Now, I would say to begin that this tweet by the by Bayo Ananuga, first of all, I don't think the tweet helped the case. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Minister of Science and Technology, Niger, came out to say that there was going to be an outright ban. The federal government, rather, was considering banning the importation of solar panels. Now, when that news came in, he said the aim for this was to increase local manufacturing, but Rian kicked against it, saying, while that may be good, we need to increase local capacity first, so we do not create a bigger problem because we do not even have the capacity to produce at the rate that we should. Now, with regards to the presidency choosing to have solar panels in the system, the truth is, if these are coming from Nigerian manufacturers, that may be a good thing. But have we strengthened our manufacturers enough to provide solar panels of this capacity? I think those are the issues that that Bayo should be, so he should be addressing. As opposed to telling us how the White House uses solar panels, he always comes off as Nigerians up as opposed to addressing the pertinent issues. And of course, I think the situation with the universities is quite interesting. I cannot wait to see that happen.
Okay, look, I think we discussed this subject yesterday, but it's okay. Electricity, energy supply, very important subject. And I made a point, I piggybacked on the point made by Vimbai yesterday about productivity. That if you have electricity supply in Nigeria, you will increase productivity. Vulcanizers, roadside mechanics, artisans, they will be able to force also who are below middle class, within the middle class, or aspiring to be part of the upper middle class or whatever, will also be able to function in the society. In other words, energy sustainability, or the phrase they use is sustainability, is important to productivity, and we have to continue to make that point. The second point is that we said yesterday that this issue about solar panel in ASOROCK, we made a point that the intelligent thing to say for the benefit of the deaf and the dumb who argue with common sense is that this is a situation in relation to electricity that the Nigerian government has to think out of ASOROCK, ASO Villa box and realize that what is important is that when you provide this sustainable energy for the benefit of the commonality of the people, you will be promoting the common good. And we insist on that point. The third point is that, look, there is an electricity act of 2023. If you look at that electricity act, which is the extant law on the subject, it talks about solar power. It talks about, the grid, the national grid, decentralizing the national. There are many options that the Nigerian government can look at in terms of making power available for the Nigerian people to ensure productivity. And it's not rocket science. They've done it in other countries of the world. What is problematic with this conversation is the of the whole conversation to the fact that, people in ASOROCK, they can use solar power, they can have electricity. No, nobody is saying they can have electricity in ASO Villa. We are saying, whatever Mr. Ananuga may have said about solar power in the White House or whatever, the bigger issue is about the common good. It's about the Nigerian people. I'm sure the young lady, the young lady from Zimbabwe, that's your new title now.
That's what
you got it yesterday.
And I love it. I love that.
I embrace
the young lady from Zimbabwe enjoy electricity. N10B here, who want to enjoy electricity? We like to enjoy electricity. You don't want to say, it's because somebody is in ASO Villa. They can enjoy solar power. No, the subject is bigger than that. And I hope that people who have enough common sense to understand that aspect of the argument.
All right, well, Adifem, I believe that you also touched on this briefly yesterday, and you were speaking to obviously the possibility that there may be other reasons why this may also be put in place.
Correct. Correct. I mean, that's what we were discussing yesterday, that it would be interesting to have heard from the presidency to understand their justification for this, further than the comparison between other institutions that use solar panel as use the White House as an example, which is true. I do think that it would have been interesting to hear, as I said yesterday, what the reasons are for the presidency to use this, because in addition to ASOROCK being the home of the president, a lot of people also contribute and see ASOROCK as a place of work, as a place of business, because there are more people who live there and work there than just the president. So while we are talking about the access to solar panel and solar energy and us being able to harness this great resource of the sun that we have in Nigeria, it is also, I think, important for us to understand that people that we are caping for also exist at ASOROCK, and if they can benefit, be able to do so too. Essentially, my point yesterday, my point today is that we are all Nigerians, and there are people more than just the actual president who live and work at ASOROCK who should be able to access, and that is a bad thing.
All right, Bayo, or do I say young lady? Which do you prefer now?
Please, young lady.
Young lady. Young lady.
Title for me.
For you, what's your stance on this? Reactions?
There's several reactions, but firstly, I want to focus on the universities.
Yes.
That's an important development, because we know that several universities are currently crippled because they are in darkness. The students cannot even study for exams. They're studying by candlelight. There have been several protests across the country from students protesting lights. I mean, so if we can transition the universities to solar energy, then we're thinking in the right direction. And this is the point that we're making, is that this 10 billion, let it go to universities, fine. Let it go to hospitals, no problem. Let it go to the productive sector of the economy. We're not saying that the president doesn't deserve. Absolutely, he should go for it. However, let's first ensure that there's energy security in Nigeria for Nigerians who need to wake up each morning to find their daily 2K anymore. It's not daily 10K that you have to find, because your daily 2K can't cut it anymore. So that's the point that we're making. So I always like to say two things can be true at the same time. Yes, Aso Villa can have solar power. They can have whatever energy. They can even have hydropower if they can access the source to it. However, that is not the priority, because that represents 1%, if up to 1% of the population. 99% who, I use the figure 2K, are waking up to look for daily 2K, are the people we should be focusing on. Now, to speak of, okay, the White House has solar, and I believe there were a number of other examples that came out. That's why I made the point of energy security. The United States is a net exporter of energy, meaning they produce more than they can consume domestically. So, you know, we need to be careful not to compare apples with oranges.
Exactly.
And while we're aspiring to become evolve into, to become more like the more developed nations and aspirational nations and so forth, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's imitate productive things that are supportive, and let's imitate social security for our people. Let's imitate access to healthcare, free education, clean running water. I think those are the things we should be attempting to emulate before we get to, solar power for those who, if their books balance well, will be able to pay their electricity. I know the electricity bill at Aso Villa is not, just because of this administration. It's a legacy issue.
Yes.
However, let's start learning that lesson of cutting our coat according to our size so that we can pay our electricity bill in the presidential villa and allocate resources towards all these other vulnerable areas of society that actually desperately need energy.
Desperately need the energy. Well, let's take another story now. As the dust raised by the continued killings in Benue and Plateau states is yet to settle, the Niger State Governor, Umar Bago, on Tuesday declared a dusk to dawn curfew in the capital, Mina, following the incessant killings in the city. Now, in a controversial directive aimed at addressing the growing insecurity, Governor Bago ordered security agents to arrest individuals seen with dreadlocks or wearing weave-ons, describing the styles as signs of rascality, during the security meeting. Now, the governor instructed that such individuals be apprehended, forced to cut their hair, and fined. Let's take a look.
Nobody is above the law. And the primary responsibility of government is to provide for the security and life of the citizens. I will lead the operation. I will follow each street of Mina, will fish them out, and we are going to make sure we deal with them accordingly. So zero tolerance to rascality in Mina. Anybody that you find with dreadlock, arrest him, barb his hair, and fine him. Nobody should carry any kind of health court again inside Mina. I have given you marching order, the security agencies. Anybody you find with a weapon, deal with him as an armed robber. So for parents, warn your children, warn your wards. From this moment, it's 100% fire for fire.
Well, I think I'm never speechless, but I think I am on this one because I don't even know where to begin with this. But let's jump on this one. Rascality. I was saying as a joke, maybe, I know that when I was in secondary school, even some years in the university, like your early years, they would say you have to take off your beards. You cannot keep beards. It's not a sign of being clean and being polished. So maybe that can also be something that can be added to that list, aside taking out the weave-ons, the dreads.
Well,
is this the issue?
I know, I'm sure Dr. Abati will comment after this because he had some interesting context to this. But as it is, as a broad statement that has been made, it's disappointing at best that the chief security officer of a state, let's give him credit for being proactive. In being proactive, is now preferring this type of solution as the solution to criminality and rascality from quote-unquote area boys in his state. It's very unfortunate because NSAS was not too long ago, and we know that menace was accentuated by stereotyping and profiling, and that one was targeted towards the young men with their laptops. The young men, even with dreadlocks as well. It had a specific profile, and we know the menace it created. So we have to be very careful. I always talk about the precedent we set. We have to be very careful because once you get this ball rolling, you're creating a very dangerous environment because that means that, in essence, there's anarchy. If I see you, you're my neighbor and you have dreadlocks and I just don't like your face, it means that the law can be taken into my own hands purely because of your appearance, because of who did dreadlocks harm at the end of the day? If you go to the history of African beauty, if I may call it that, African hair trends and so forth, these are some of the hairstyles that our ancestors had. They kept them neat and tidy, and it was a sign of royalty in some places in the world. Now, unfortunately, it has been degraded to be something that's associated with negative contexts and negative connotations. But honestly and truly, if we're to be honest with ourselves, if we go back in history, our ancestors, they had dreadlocks. Mm-hmm. They sure did. So for me, this is an unfortunate statement. It's also insightful because how do you now draw the line between this and empowering, whether it be the police or the community police and so forth? He said fire for fire. So you're empowering people to be heavy-handed. You're empowering the potentially, because I believe the law says that you're innocent until proven guilty. But you're now empowering jungle justice because I'm going to convict you based off of your appearance of things that you may know nothing about. So for me, very concerning, having this kind of loose rhetoric. Yes, there's a problem with insecurity and with crime. Absolutely. Is he trying to take a strong man stance and, trying to read the Riot Act because certain groups have now been emboldened by the fact that there's other activity of criminality? Absolutely. But to now just paint everybody with one brush and say that if you have dreadlocks, we will meet you fire for fire is hugely irresponsible and insightful.
Yes, Dr. Abati.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Very quickly, we started with this subject. Malam Nuhu Ribadu saying that President Tinubu is committed to, dealing with insecurity in any part of Nigeria. And he was in Benue State, and he made that point. But in the course of that conversation earlier this morning, we talked about Governor Bago of Niger State. Governor Bago is known as the farmer governor. And he has done a lot with regard to farming in, Niger State. He has shown very good example. But now he has, an issue with insecurity in his state. Niger State, by the way, is perhaps the largest state in terms of landmass area. And then, of course, the very porous borders. So insecurity is a major problem in that state. Now, a number of things. One, Governor Bago, you said you had a problem with his beards. Well, there are some women who like beards.
No, I have no problem with the beards. I'm saying that in some parts of the society, shaving your beards is seen as the most decent possible look. You're not allowed to keep your beard.
So you want him to shave his beard?
I love beards. I'm just saying, if we're taking off the dreads, we might as well just buy the beards.
But I wanted to link that with the issue about dreadlocks.
Yes.
Now, Section 42 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria says you can't discriminate against a person, whether they are bearded or they wear dreadlocks or they believe in anything, whatever. It says you are free to make your own choices about how you live your life. But I have it on good authority that the issue about dreadlocks in Niger State, as articulated by Governor Bago, is that, look, there seems to be some information that people who wear dreadlocks in Niger State belong to a particular court where, they take drinks, they are involved in criminality. And that may be the reason why Governor Bago says, when you see people who wear dreadlocks in Niger State, particularly in the capital city of Minna, then there is a problem. So we need to investigate that to establish that this is not just a case of discrimination, a violation of Section 42 of the Constitution, but the fact that there is specific information with regard to people who are involved in criminality in Niger State. The second point has to do with the measures that Governor Bago has taken. He has now said that, look, in Niger State, there will be curfew between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. You cannot ride is it Keke Nape that he talked about. Now, we would like to know more about how there is a connection between the riding of Keke Nape between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. in Niger State and the criminality in that particular state. Now, what is the other thing that he said? He says anybody that is found with a knife or with a dagger should be immediately arrested. And if such persons are killed, even the parents of the person that is involved must pay for the bullet that is used to kill the person. That's a bit on the extreme side, so you can question that. But you can understand where the governor is coming from. He also says that anyone who goes to a police station to secure the bail of a thug or of a person who has been arrested for getting involved in any form of violence, that person should also be arrested. Now, where is that in the laws of Nigeria, that you cannot secure bail? So there are questions, there are issues. But where the governor is coming from, it seems to me, is that, look, these governors are called the chief law officers, chief security officers of their states. We spoke with Governor Alia, Governor Father Hyacinth Alia, who was also expressing concern about the security situation in Rivers. And now we're talking about the Niger State governor. So these governors, some of them may just say, well, can I even test the law and assert myself as the chief security officer in my state? by saying that in this state you cannot do certain things. To that extent, I think there's something commendable in what former Governor Bago of Niger State is trying to do. But some of the things about if you go and secure bail, you too should be arrested and detained. You know, anybody who wears dreadlocks, he should have his head shaved.
That's just too much.
If you shaved, if you are found with even ordinary knife, you know, you should be shot and all that. You can question all of that at the level of legality. But where it's coming from is, in my view, understandable. But the former governor may think that dealing with security is the same thing as dealing with agriculture. There is a difference between the farm and security.
Absolutely.
But I guess that he will be properly educated.
Of course, I think.
So, my people, that is it. I hope you guys had everything they said here. The truth is that this government have realized that whatever they do, they will definitely go scot-free. They know that Nigerians will not do anything. This is the reason why they continue this impunity. Because how can someone come out and tell us that because of their installed solar power in White House, they must do it in ASOROCK, knowing fully well that we don't even have 24 hours electricity. This is our money they are using to do all this nonsense, and they are telling us that we don't have any right to react. What a country. That is it. As I make I bring this update to you guys. Please do well to leave your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't shared the video. Give it a like. Yes, I will see you guys in my next update. Goodbye for now.